Remember that one time Gojo almost ended the series? At the very beginning of the Shibuya incident, after the defeat of Kokichi Muta at the hands of Mahito, we're rewarded with a scene of raw and unrestrained strength, an event capable of causing a potential split in the timeline, where if things had gone even a tiny bit different, well, the series would have been over. That would have been all she wrote, credits rolled, no continues. The scene being described, of course, is the embarrassment of the disaster curses being taken on all at once by Satoru Gojo, the strongest Jujutsu sorcerer. We'll be dissecting exactly what makes Satoru Gojo so powerful as a one-man army and why he can't share the battlefield with any allies. We'll touch base on every mistake the disaster curses make leading up to what could have been their end, specifically Jogo, who was more than aware of the horror that Satoru Gojo is capable of and still decided to show face, coming into this fight with nothing but fear and respect of Gojo's absolute dominance. Halloween night. Covered in darkness, blacker than darkness. The entire city of Shibuya lay frozen in time. Entering the scene, Gojo can immediately sense that something is off. Approaching the belly of the beast, the demigod descends to the basement floor of the Hikari building, fully prepared for what awaits him. Presented with the opposition of 3 full-fledged disaster-level special grades, Satoru laughs in the face of evil. Although blindfolded, Satoru sees quite clearly through the curse's facade of confidence. Taunting the curses, Gojo says he doesn't want to hear any excuses when they lose this time. And choking back his better judgment, Jogo trusts in the plan and assumes the confidence necessary to lead his team. Get ready to have your first ever excuse ready. With all exits closed off, the first step of Kenjaku's master plan begins. Gojo simply assuming they're blocking off his escape routes, Jogo's pseudo-confidence becomes emboldened, now realizing Satoru has yet to catch on. Without wasting their opportunity, as the train doors release the bystanders onto the track, Gojo indeed could not foresee the carnage that was about to unfold. Caught off guard by the chaos at first, both Hanami and Jogo take full advantage of Gojo's confusion amongst the slaughter and submerge Gojo in a domain amplification barrier. Domain amplification, much like New Shadow style Simple Domain, but backwards. It neutralizes or dampens the technique of the victim, weakening Satoru's Limitless and making him vulnerable to the curse's attacks. Unlucky for the disaster curses, being alone is Satoru Gojo's greatest strength. However, it can also become his greatest weakness.
大丈夫でしょ。だって君弱いもん。
While fighting, Gojo excels by himself because he has the freedom to cut loose. His curse techniques specifically manipulate the space around him to such a degree that others can be crushed just from being too close to Gojo's movements. Which means while Gojo is at his peak when alone, we can also dive into a situation that can be turned on its head to mean the exact opposite. As without any outside interferences or unseen circumstances, one's abilities can be completely plotted out and schemed around. While blessed with a myriad of options, a large bank of opportunity does not mean infinite, and 1,000 years is a lot of time to plan for eventualities. Just as an example, hundreds of civilians can be stacked in one place to put a Limitless user at a disadvantage. And soon after that, chances can arise like multiple intelligent disaster level curse spirits capable of communication and coordinating effectively as a unit all come together. It also allows the timeline to take place in such a way where an invincible demigod's emotions can be manipulated by the sight of a deceased friend. The revival of a person that would make someone who has risen above all else feel again like they weren't alone at the top. Being forced to retreat back to a safe position, the cheeky, charming nature we've come to expect from Satoru fades from view. This newly reinvigorated Jogo cockily calls Gojo out for running, but this bravado is immediately struck down by the Honored One's cold disregard for his existence. The glare of the heavens staring back at him, Jogo trembles before the weight of Satoru's emerging ferocity. Picking Hanami out of the crowd, Gojo acknowledges the weed has escaped too many times, vowing to end a game of cat and mouse they've started once and for all. Crippled by fear, the cursed spirits are so casually approached by the Jujutsu god for the second round. Snapping out of it at the last second, Jogo is genuinely surprised when his attack first makes contact with Satoru, finally breaking through the infinity and making contact with true divinity. This monumental achievement for Jogo is short-lived, for just as soon as first contact came, it was ripped away, tearing Jogo's arm clean from the elbow. Gojo tauntingly uses the limb as a shield from Hanami's counterattack. Gojo then turns and makes a beeline directly for Jogo while he attempts to run and recover. Confused by Gojo's pursuit of Jogo, despite targeting them specifically, Hanami is shocked to notice Gojo has yet to reactivate Infinity. And it's here Hanami shows their one fatal weakness. More of a natural spirit, Hanami's initial nature is less confrontational. Unlike curses like Jogo or Mahito, born with the potential to grow unrestrained and fight with unnatural talents, Hanami developed to be much more reserved. It wasn't until their battle with Yuji and Todo that they began to understand the thrill of battle and actually experience bloodlust. Despite being one of the more powerful disaster curses, by lacking the capability to fully use this power, Hanami falls short compared to the fighting ability of their counterparts, resulting in Hanami making the amateur mistake of dispelling their domain amplification in order to go for the kill shot on Satoru's first available opening. Recognizing now, Hanami had fucked up majorly, Jogo attempts to yell out to his comrade, but he's too late, as Satoru Gojo had already caught the stench of mediocrity. His grip already tightly locked around Hanami's eye branches, Gojo rips them out of their sockets, severely incapacitating the cursed spirit at its most vulnerable location. Jogo attempts to cooperate with what energy Hanami has left, trying to once again initiate the domain amplification. But more than aware of the shtick at this point, it doesn't take much for Gojo to play the reverse card and overwhelm the amplification with his own cursed energy output, completely negating the amplification and turning the barrier around on the weakest link, Hanami. Gojo takes full advantage and abuses Hanami's vulnerability, taking this massive force field of cursed energy and pressing it against Hanami's body, slowly crushing them against the wall behind. With only one last chance to save his friend, Jogo aims a fire blast at a group of civilians, hoping he can turn the demigod's aggression away from Hanami. However, once Jogo's head turns back around, there isn't anyone left to take that attention away from. The spirit known as Hanami has been reduced to a skid mark on the wall. The only thing Jogo's gaze is met with is the angered deity as he turns to meet Jogo's despair with vindication. Next, time is running short. Jogo sprints through remaining crowds like his life depends on it. Body after body tossed behind in his wake to try and keep the mad god off his trail. The piercing blood lazily tossed and offensive against Satoru by Choso does little to keep him off of Jogo's trail either. As more and more people die in the crossfire, Gojo swears vengeance. Unlike most sorcerers, the pool of blood Satoru Gojo wades in knows no bounds. The weight of the world rests on Satoru's shoulders. The pain of the planet on full display for those sky-enamored eyes to witness. And here, in this one aspect, the cursed spirits made one fatal error. While the absence of sacrifice does leave Satoru Gojo to fight with a clean conscience, the presence of death on his watch only fans the fires of an even more determined deity. In exchange for every life lost here in Shibuya, Gojo will exercise the curses 100 times more brutally. They couldn't be more oblivious to the sleeping dragon. Silly to think the flames that spill from its snoring nostrils are as hot as the heat can get. With the train of transfigured humans and Mahito crashing into the arena, the chaos level elevates tenfold. Here, in the midst of all this confusion, the disaster curses truly think they've turned the tides in their favor. The enthusiastic Mahito, overjoyed at being able to experience Limitless for himself, and the cockiness of an insect like Jogo, smirking as if victory is already a shoo-in. The utter indifference for human life, as they all assume the dead chain Satoru Gojo down. The weight of every sacrifice like a burden too heavy to bear. The curses with such little understanding of what it means to be honored could have never imagined Gojo Satoru would turn around and make a sacrifice of his own. In this moment, Jujutsu history was made, or at least written history. As a domain expansion fully laid out with its innate technique activated in less than 0.2 seconds. The math behind this time span wasn't planned at all. Satoru had mapped the length out in his head before casting, having assumed this was the maximum amount of unlimited void an average human could withstand, while also being enough to stunlock all the disaster curses in the area. Ascending once more to heights unknown, even just a taste of infinity is enough to leave the cursed spirits dazed and confused. Unable to ever truly grasp nirvana, that blessing alone waits for only one man. It was in the 299 seconds that followed after the casting of Unlimited Void that Satoru Gojo would exterminate every single transfigured human of the approximate 1,000 that were located on basement floor 5 of the Fukutoshin line, a feat only achievable by the strongest Jujutsu sorcerer, while still being able to prioritize all other life in the area. Just as attention would have turned to those responsible for all of that death and destruction, before a closure could be reached for every sacrifice that was made today, Prison Realm drops to the floor. Instinctively, Gojo's mind tells him to run, but hearing the voice of his late best friend, even a god couldn't help but hesitate. The wretched relic awakens, and as the fleshy cross expands, the ugly eye of Prison Realm sets its sights on the one thought invincible, its new prey. But even in full arrest, the only thought crossing Satoru's mind is of that last journey he spent with the one he could call friend. In just 1 minute, 3 years pass through Satoru Gojo's mind.